All right, so the first thing is to find a comfortable stance with your feet hip width apart. Yep. Toes slightly in, heels slightly out, not quite pigeon-toed, but a little bit of that sense of internal rotation. 3 points of contact on each foot, big toe, little toe, heel. You can lift the toes, spread them out, place them back on, keep them on the ground. Then we're going to check the ankle joint. So making sure your ankle is neither bowing out to the sides or collapsing inwards into your arches. Checking the knees, giving them a slight bend so they're not locking, and trying to keep them stacked over the heels. Next up, we got the hips. Hips also slightly back so that they're not collapsing forward, sending the weight over the toes. And then from the hips, stacking the spine all the way up from the sacrum, low back, thoracic spine, cervical spine. Nice, long, neutral, vertebral column. If you feel that you're hyperextending your low back, if your low back is arching too much, then we're going to fix it by tucking the tailbone, sending the sacrum away from the middle of the low back, and pinning the front ribs down, sending the low ribs, posterior low ribs away from the low back as well. So tighten the front, open the back. From here, shoulders back, we get into the nice long wing position, arms straight to the side. Check your fingers, make sure the palm opens, make sure the fingers spread, and give it a nice external rotation. There we go. Yeah. Now, when we open the front, again, we don't want to collapse into the low back or into the mid back. So keeping some tension on the abdominals and the hip flexors, keeping the chin nicely level with the ground, slightly tucked in so that we're not hyperextending the back of the neck. And from here, we're going to go into the first hinge, loading the posterior chain. So the hips go back, find your hamstrings, find your glutes, find your spine erectors, your paraspinal muscles, without hyperextending. Again, a little bit of tension on the front. Big breaths here. In the first one, we're simply just holding, checking through the alignment, toes on the floor, ankles straight, knees slightly bent, not going forward towards the toes. Hips back, not hyperextending the low back. Big breaths here, elevating, expanding the torso, decompressing torso away from the hips. Check the fingers, check the hands, check the retraction of the shoulders, depression of the shoulders away from the ears, external rotation, thumbs rolling back, big breath in. And then exhale, simply release the hands and shake that off. We're going to do the exact same thing with the right foot forward and the left foot back. So you could have the right foot in front of the mat, left foot behind the mat. We're going to check that the feet are slightly turned in. You can think of it as like railroad tracks all the way straight through. Ankles straight, especially that back ankle. Don't let it collapse in or out. Check the knees, slightly bent. The weight is 50-50 front and back. And make sure you're not dumping into your back here. So lengthening through the spine again. Open the shoulders, long wing position. Arms to the side. Good. And we're just going to hold this one. Shoulders away from the ears. Spread the fingers wide. Get a little bit of a hinge, just enough that you know your hamstring, your glute, your spine is working. Not all the way forward, just a little bit here. Finding that posterior chain, focusing on the right side, and then just simply stepping forward and switching sides. Left foot forward, right foot back. So we're checking the feet, the internal rotation, the ankles, the knees. We want to make sure that the hips are even. So neither hip forward or back, neither hip higher or lower. And then adding that gentle tucking of the tailbone to create space on the low back. Shoulders out and wide, external rotation. Yeah, not dumping back, but actually hinging a little bit so that the hips go slightly back, loading the glutes. And just notice if you start to feel that the left hip starts to creep forward, getting you off the glute. And then again, get that correction so that you know you're on the glute. Careful with locking the back knee or coming too high into your toes. We don't want to hyperextend the joint of the toes. Good, and then just step forward. Okay, shake that off. We're gonna come back in. Now this time, toes in, heels out. So the toes are touching and the knees are touching. We're gonna screw the legs in, anchor the legs towards each other, feel the engagement of the adductors, the inner thighs, and then send those knees back, send the hips back, find your decompression breath, find the shoulders back out to the sides. Nice open position. So again, holding this founder, knees back, hamstrings, glute, posterior chain loading, not bowing forward and down, but hinging back. And find that relation between the squeezing of the knees, the internal rotation of the thighs, with the hinging back. Opening the back of the hips, engaging the front of the hips. Breath here. Squeeze the knees. Come up, shake that off. Right foot forward, left foot back again. Same thing. This time we're going to go a little bit deeper, but still step by step without rushing into the position. Find your alignment from the bottom up. Make sure the hips are squared before you go into the hinge, and then allow yourself to go as deep as you can without it going so deep that you start to lose your alignment. If you want here, you can reach the arms forward, make that sphere of tension, fingertips touching, elbows pretty much straight, and it's your heart that's reaching forward, not your shoulders. The shoulders are pulling back and down away from the ears. You can probably lift that heel up a little bit more. Yeah. And when you lift the heel, instead of lifting the heel to bend the knee, lift the heel to propel yourself forward over the right leg. Yeah, without over flexing your toes. So not too much, not too little. Goldilocks height for the heel. And step forward. Switch sides. Send that hip back to even with the right. When you're ready, set the shoulders, set the arms, and go into your hinge. Careful with the low back, keep a nice space. Check the back knee. Make sure you're not locking it. Arms forward, sphere with the fingertips. Nice open palms and fingers, all joints bent, but not collapsing into your hands. Nice and open. Breath here. Shoulders back and down, heart forward, hips back. And step forward. Release the arms. Let's go into a wide stance on the mat. So legs a little wider from each other. And now we're going to do an outer anchor. We're going to push the heels, the knees, the hips out to the sides to get more into the lateral sides, into the glutes. Hands can be in the long position again. Long wing. Hips go back, back, back. Legs kicking away from each other, toes on the floor. Build those arches. Work with the ankles. Hips hinging back, not bowing down, not going too far. Yeah, and then see if you can integrate here. So hips go back 80, 90%, and then they come forward, but not all the way, keeping 20% of that hinge. Hips go back, leading with the hips, not bowing over the toes. Integrating. Careful with the spinal movements. See if you can stabilize that lumbar spine. A little more external rotation at the shoulders. Roll that thumb back. Pull the head back. Keep the chin in. One more time, integrating back here. Leading with the hips, 80, 90%. Coming back up. And then we're going to go right foot forward, left foot back. We're going to integrate this lunge into the woodpecker. Same. Take it slow without compromising any alignment points. Open that pinky line. Yeah, stretch your pinky a little more. There you go. Good. Yeah, making sure that the hips don't turn. Nice. Make sure the head stays back. Last one here, yeah, step forward. Switch sides. Left hip back a little bit more. Make sure you got that glute going from the beginning. Open that pinky. Okay. Not coming super high up on the back toes. Not locking the right knee here. Bend the right knee. Yeah, like that. You got it. Careful with the head dropping forward. Keep the head back. Big breaths, almost there. Last one. And yeah, step forward here. Okay, last exercise again. Find your stance, hip width apart, toes slightly in. Coming back to our neutral stance here, eyes closed. Find your breath. Hips back a little bit, knees unlocked. Find that neutral, aligned stance. Find that space on the low back. Give it a few breaths here. The shoulders slightly back, opening the front without dumping into the low back. Just noticing what it feels like to stand tall in alignment. One more breath. Good job.